Good morning or afternoon, depending on when you're watching this, and welcome back to Ascendria Tarot. My name is Caitlin, and I am co-owner of Ascendria here in Polson, Montana. Couple of updates. We do have some of our fall inventory ordered, and we'll be ordering more soon, so if you're local, come and check out some of our inventory as it comes in. We're working on a couple more consignments, and other than that, it's just the same updates as last week. We have a couple events coming up. We will be closed September 13th for the Pagan Festival and the Celtic Festival. And then I still don't know quite all the details yet, but we will be having a Mabon gathering, and that will be the 27th. And that's all I know so far. I do need to get on planning that, but been planning a lot lately. And then before we get into the cards, I do like to put a little disclaimer out there. Take what resonates, leave the rest. If it doesn't feel like it fits, don't try to force it to fit your life. You'll know if that message is for you, and you might only get like one little nugget that resonates, and that's what you were meant to hear. And then the other thing is, don't get caught up on the gender of the cards. We have the king and the queen and the knights and the pages. Even some of the minor arcana, the ace through the 10, sometimes they have a gendered figure in the card, and we might say he or she, but it's all just energy. It's all fluid. It could be feminine, masculine, which we all have both in us, but it's not really talking about like physical, biological gender, female and male. It's talking about energy, feminine versus masculine energy. That, or, with energy not being linear and it's fluid, it could be picking up on somebody around you, it could be picking up on you, your past, your future, your present. You kind of have to sit with yourself and discern how that is manifesting in your life. Only you're gonna know. It's almost like how doctors tell patients, maybe not nowadays, but the only person who's gonna know your body the best is you. The only person who's going to understand these messages as it pertains to you is you. I can only get like a broad general energy reading. It's up to the viewer to kind of decide what it all means specifically for yourself. And then, I think those are all the disclaimers. Really the meat of it is just to take it as it resonates, and then if it doesn't resonate, just leave it. It's not for you. It's for somebody else. So that is all I have for updates and disclaimers, so let's go ahead and get into it. So I've been having a hard time kind of dialing in this message for today because there's so much to it. I don't know if I can make it concise and coherent. We'll see what comes up. But this morning on my drive in, I was asking Spirit, what messages they want my collective to hear today. And I heard a line that I had posted on our Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all that. It was one of the posts that I made, and it was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 things that I wish I knew when I started my journey. And I heard the line, "Let others guide you, but carve your own path." And that's been ringing true for me today. And then when I got here, I pulled a card out of my Sacred Path deck, which is a sister deck to my medicine card deck. And what I got was the medicine wheel. And it is very similar to the Wheel of Fortune tarot. But the message of this card, like, yes, the wheel is constantly turning. But this card was asking us to notice where in the cycle we're at right now. Whether we're at the beginning or the creation or the growing time, the developing, or the end of the cycle. And noticing where we're at in that cycle can help us to find a direction when there's stagnation. Sometimes it's hard to pick a direction, and when we hit those stagnations and we can't find a direction to take ourselves, that's usually when we start to look to others and see what they're doing, and if not copy them or emulate them, we're trying to, like, I don't know how to explain that. We're trying to look for external signs, confirmation on which way to go. There are times where, yes, you can look to the external to get signs, but even when you're getting those signs, the only way you are going to hear the answer is by getting still and sitting with yourself, most likely in silence. Silence is the best way to hear those answers. But it takes sitting with ourselves. And sometimes it's sitting in the middle of that wheel and meditating on which direction to go. There was something else that wanted to come up with that. Even when we're in that kind of still point, trying to figure out which direction to go, the wheel will continue to turn. Life continues on. It has no regard for our wants, our needs, our desires, our challenges. It just goes on. And I just lost my train of thought. So the wheel continues to turn, right? And a lack of a decision is still a decision. A lack of choice is still a choice. And if we sit in this kind of analysis paralysis for long enough, it's almost like spirit is going to choose for you. Like those intense scenes in action movies where it's like the villain of the story gives the protagonist or the hero a choice, and it's a hard choice. It's like, do this bad thing that you don't want to do, or your mom or your sister or your brother is gonna die. I'm gonna kill him. You know, and then if you don't make a decision, they make the decision for you, and you might not like that decision. However, that lack of choice is still a choice. So it's like, if you don't like the stagnation, that's your choice. If you don't like the misery that you're in, you're there because you made that choice. You made the choice not to act, not to move. And that can sound pretty discouraging, but on the flip side, the encouraging part of that is it is still very much your choice. You know, to know that you're choosing that misery is to also know that you can choose something different. You can choose to come out of that misery or do something to ease the situation. And all it takes is just, you know, sometimes it's getting still and asking your spirit guides, yourself, which direction to go. Other times it's just kind of almost trial and error. Just pick a direction. It's almost like when you're lost in the woods, just pick a direction and start walking. But we can look to others. We don't want to copy others, but we can look to others to help guide us. It's almost like when you do pick a direction and you start walking that path, you know, you might not know, you know, at all what you're doing or how it's going to turn out. And, you know, take tarot reading, for example. If that's the path you decide to walk, you can look to other readers to kind of get a feel, kind of experiment. Like, you know, maybe you have 5 different readers that you're watching, and you try this person's way, and you try this person's way, and this person's, and this person's, and maybe none of them work for you. Maybe you pick, you know, one little piece out of everybody's way of reading, and you kind of curate your own way. So that's what I mean by let others guide you, but carve your own path. People can only tell you what worked for them. They're not going to be able to tell you what's going to work for you because you're unique. Is there anything else that wants to be said on that? Nope. I think that's pretty complete. Yeah. Something about the wheel. There's still like, and this was my issue trying to get this video to start filming and start talking about this, is because there's still like a nugget about noticing the stage that you're in, that like every time I get close to it, it just floats away. And maybe it's not meant to be said, but there's still, it's like right there, and I can't like grab a hold of it. Noticing what stage you're in. That might be it. When we get to the stagnation where it feels like nothing is moving, and this is almost giving me chills because it kind of fits into my life as well. I feel like sometimes that stagnation might look like nothing is moving, nothing is turning, nothing is working. But if you've ever planted a seed and waited for it to sprout and break the surface, because, you know, once it breaks the surface, then you can kind of almost watch it grow. You can see the progress over, you know, a couple days. You know, kind of reminds me of, we put a bird feeder in our yard, and some of the seeds fell down on the ground, and we've got corn growing in our yard now. Cracks me up. But anyways, even just like in a period of like 2 days, it grew so much. So it's like when it's above the surface, you can track the progress. But before it breaks, that surface, when you plant the seed, it looks like nothing's happening. But it's all happening underneath the surface. So it looks like stagnation. But really, a lot of things are happening. A lot of things are growing. And you are in that growing cycle. You just can't see it yet. So it might be a little bit of a lesson in be patient. Yeah? Okay. I think that concludes kind of the collective overall message / theme. So let's go ahead and get into the signs. Well, not the signs, the elements. I think that works for me. Let me know if you like it. Okay, so a little different today. We're going to start with air signs. Today we are I will be using a deck that I made about 5-6 years ago that I hardly ever use, and it's kind of feeling like I want to be used today. I literally just wrote down a bunch of song titles. I get a lot of messages from songs, so we'll be using that one today. And I've got I can't remember what it's called, but it's a botanical deck. Yeah, it's just called the Magical Botanical Oracle. And I think it's fitting with my recent obsession with herbal medicine. I love herbal medicine. The only thing is, because it's a fairly new deck, I haven't gotten to study it much lately, yet at all. I think I worked with it once, kind of interviewing the deck, and then I haven't used it again. I do know that with that deck, it's got very potent energy to it. Like, it's for when somebody is going through some deep shit. So the fact that it's wanting to get worked with today kind of tells me that we might all be going through some shit. Maybe, who knows? It might not be shit. It might just be a really intense chapter. Not all intensity is bad, it's just intense. So I will be reading from the book when we pull the card. First up, we will use my deck. And then for tarot, getting a little deeper, I've got my Gateway to the Divine Tarot. The only thing about these note cards is they're a little hard to shuffle. Maybe one day I will upgrade and get them on actual cards so that it's easier to shuffle, but for now, we're gonna work with what we got. And that's how any path starts. You just kind of start where you are, use what you got, and then go from there. Okay, let's try getting one card. Sometimes this likes to fall out in a lot of cards. We'll see. A Woman Like You by Lee Bryce. So I don't know, if you haven't heard that song, I don't know why you wouldn't, but maybe you don't like country. But the energy of that song is like, the woman in the story of the song is doubting herself, doubting, that she is worthy of being loved and admired. And Lee Bryce in the song, what he's singing about is, because she asks him what he would do if he'd never met her. And he basically paints this picture of like, yeah, maybe life would be great. Maybe I would be doing this or I would be doing this. But in doing all of that, I would be looking for someone like you. And so it brings it full circle back to I do love you, I want you. And so I don't know, that's kind of cute. So if you're doubting somebody's feelings or intentions towards you, just know that they're pure, they're good, they're warm, they love you. What do we have for botanical? The one drawback to using these cards is now I'm gonna have the song stuck in my head. What else do we have for air signs? What botanical magic do you have for air signs? I love the way these shuffle. They feel so nice. Dandelion. So before we read the description in the book, the thing that I know about dandelion is all parts of this plant can be used, from the flowers to the roots, the stems, the leaves, everything. And there's so much medicinal power to dandelion. More than what meets the eye. Everybody thinks it's just a weed, but it actually helps with a lot. Can I tell you anything off the top of my head right now? No. Not there yet. I just know that every part can be used, and it's got so many medicinal properties. A lot of people are surprised when they learn that dandelion has a lot of properties. Okay, let's see what it says. Okay, there's quite a bit here. Dandelions hold a special childhood magic for so many of us, with images of making wishes on their puffball seeds, but that hides powerful medicine and magic found in these humble yet kingly flowers. Named for the French, I'm gonna butcher this. I don't want to say it. Dante de Leon? I think. It's either Dente or Dante or Don't or Dint. I don't know. De Leon I got. Or Lion's Tooth. There we go. The English version. These yellow flowers are medicine for the liver, and because of this are considered a Jupiterian herb, as all liver tonics are. Jupiter herbs, as well as solar herbs, with the solar lion imagery, are for health and wealth, prosperity and success. The deep taproot of the dandelion, where a lot of the power is, helps us ground our dreams into reality and manifest our goals. The tenacious nature growing even in concrete teaches us how to never give up. Dandelion root burned in incense or brewed with rising steam can help summon the spirits. So then plant spirit medicine, the essence of dandelion is to release all that prevents us from being joyfully successful, particularly any angers or grudges we hold on to that harm us. Oh, I read that. Well, I didn't read it wrong, it's just the wrong tonage. Anywho's. As a liver herb, the spirit of dandelion helps us release emotional poisons and relax into our true self when we are too tense to embody who we really are on a soul level. The solar qualities conjuring the magic of the astrological sign Leo help us shine, allowing us to reclaim our playful child self and be who we are meant to be before we were hurt by others. The flying nature of the seeds helps us dream and fly about, reaching new lands and having new adventures that we didn't think could be possible. And then the divination meaning says, dandelion indicates a time and place for you to shine and play, and while doing so, be successful at what is at hand. This plant spirit can indicate success and good fortune in business and goals coming to fruition, all with a light-hearted, fun attitude for you. Enjoy your success and keep it going. Where is your eye drawn? Root, leaf, flower, seed? Each can deepen the meaning of the divination. The solar attributes are the most flower-like. The roots help us to get to the root of the matter and shows that you need grounding or purification. The leaf is cleansing and it says nutritive. I probably would have used the word nutritious. That's just me. Indicating support. The flying seeds are of dreams and travel. Each deepens the basic meaning of the dandelion card. I feel like this reading might be a little bit more focused on like the success aspect, because with dandelion and a woman like you, it almost feels like you're doubting yourself. And yet it's almost like they say when you're not showing up as your authentic self and you've got a mask on, your people can't find you. But when you show up as your authentic self and you create this space, your people will find you. If you create the space, they will come. Might take a while, but they will come. And so it indicates success in who you are, in your authentic self, and people resonating with that and admiring that. And it almost suggests that there are people out there that are looking for someone just like you. And you're the only one who can do things the way you do. You know, we're all unique. And there's nobody that can do you like you. And there are people out there that want that. They're looking for that. They might not know that they are looking specifically for you, but they're looking for you. Their spirit knows they're looking for you. So does yours. It's just not conscious yet. So now we've got the Gateway to the Divine Tarot. Whoa. Okay. What other messages do you have for air signs regarding these two cards? That one wanted to come out. So we got 7 of Cups. And if you can see, there are so many cups. So many different cups. They all house something different. So the way I like to explain the 7 of Cups, if you're new, is the 7 of Cups is like never eating candy and then walking through the candy aisle in Walmart. There are so many choices. Where do you even begin? How do you know which ones are, going to be worth buying? How do you know which ones you're not going to like? You won't know. There's this fear with making a decision, and that almost comes back to the medicine wheel card of making a decision. There's this fear when making a decision that, there's a little voice that says, okay, but what if you choose this one and, this path was the right one? Or what if you choose this one and, that path would have been the right one? No matter what you choose, no matter which direction you go, you are never going to know how the other path would have played out. Maybe that one would have been just as challenging. Maybe it might have been more beneficial, but maybe you chose this path that's less beneficial because you'll learn more. And so ultimately, it is a little bit more beneficial. But either way, you're never going to know what the other decision holds. You can only pick one. You know what I mean? Any more messages for air signs? We've got the star. I would say don't be too hard on yourself, and don't worry about which decision you're gonna make. Because I feel like regardless of the decision you make, it's gonna bring about success. Because the star card is often called the wish fulfillment card, the wish granted card. It's basically saying whatever you're working towards, it indicates success. Which we also have dandelion. Shokshash. So it's almost like you're trying to choose which path is going to lead you to success. All of them. All of them will lead to success, no matter what you choose. And part of that, there's something to be said for that, because it's not the circumstances that make you successful. It's your tenacity. It's your dedication. It's your patience. It's your hard work. That's what makes you successful. So I wouldn't worry too much about which direction to start with. And the 7 of Cups also kind of cautions against doing too much all at once. Maybe you've got like 5 different things you want to do. You can't start them all at once. I mean, you can, but you're going to burn out. So pick maybe 1 or 2, get those going, and once those are established and you've got a routine, a dynamic going, then maybe add in another one. Another project or task or adventure or endeavor. Whatever that means for you. Any more for air signs? The Ace of Swords. So the aces are usually, there's something new, a new layer, or it's the essence of the suit. And within the realm of swords, this is the mind. It's logic, thinking, communication. So it can either be a new way of thinking, a new conversation to be had, yeah. Something about the eagle is drawing me in, though, too. It might be a new way of thinking, because Eagle Spirit in my other deck says Spirit has your back. Yeah, Spirit has your back. No matter what you choose, Spirit has your back. They are supporting you through this. They are guiding you. It's time to listen. Not only listening to the guidance of Spirit, but also yourself. 9 times out of 10, if we stop thinking with this and start leading with the heart, that's when you will feel which direction feels right. You know, usually this is like a new way of thinking or like new in the mind, but I almost want to say that it's indicating, like, it's saying get out of your head. Quit trying to logic your way through it. Feel it. Feel what your heart wants. There's the music aspect again, because that's talking about the heart. I almost hear that Selena Gomez song that always makes me laugh, because the beginning starts with what the heart wants, but it always, like, I always hear something different of like either what the fuck, why, or one time I heard Lord Farquaad. Anyways, random tangent. What else do you have for air signs? There we go, 2 cards. We've got the Chariot, which it does deal with movement, but it's not like the Wheel of Fortune or the Medicine Wheel card that I pulled. This one is more, it's like, it's not about making a decision and going. It's not about the continuation of time, the turning of the wheel. It's more, it's power of will. It's, I'm trying to explain this. The way it describes it in the book is these 2 horses in the photo, in the imagery, are heading in 2 different directions. And this can indicate kind of internal conflict or opposing forces within yourself. But the beam of light, that's your power of will. That's your power. It's your will, your power of will, you know, whatever you want to call it. But it's giving these 2 opposing forces a direction. It's giving them something to focus on, a common, like, not denominator, a common direction, I guess. Giving them something to focus on. I think I might have already said that, but that's the kind of movement that it represents. And then we have the Queen of Wands. And I absolutely love the way that this deck portrays the Queen of Wands, because the Queen of Wands is like passion incarnate, passion and creativity. She is someone who knows what she wants and she goes for it. She doesn't hesitate, she doesn't doubt herself. I mean, you can see it in her eyes. She's absolutely fearless. even that kind of speaks to get out of your head and into your heart. Because our heart space, not necessarily the organ, but the heart space is where a lot of our passion lies. It's where a lot of our creativity lies. So get out of your head. I almost want to say these two opposing forces. I don't know why that was so funny, but just look at this. I almost want to say these two opposing forces might be your confidence and your fear, your doubt. Because there's absolutely many things that you could do, that you want to do, but something always holds you back. But the star definitely indicates, like, it doesn't matter which one you choose. It doesn't matter which one you start with or which one you commit to. Either way, and it almost kind of there's almost an aspect of, I want to say, fate. Sometimes things are already decided before we come into this life. I think of them as like canon events, kind of like every Spider-Man story has key events. So it's like we choose the key events. And so this is one of those moments that you can't choose wrong. And that might be what you need to get these opposing forces in line, in a common direction. Because even if you choose one and start moving in a direction, these two forces are still going to be there. Even if you get them on the same direction, both of them are still going to be there. You are still going to have your confidence and you are still going to have your fear. It goes back to the age-old saying of do it scared. Yeah. Your fear might still be there, but if you lead with the heart, you can't choose wrong. It's going to be successful, so get out of your head. I think that's complete. Is there anything else that wants to be said? Nope. I think everything that needs to be said has been said. I think if I continue, I'll be sounding like a broken record. Alright, if this is where we part, have a wonderful rest of your week. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It does help the channel to grow. If you are interested and haven't watched the intros and updates, go ahead and check that out. And I think that's it. Perfect. I will see you next week. Bye. Okay, Earth signs, you are up next. If you just skipped to your sign and you didn't watch through the air signs, We are going to be using a deck that I created about 5 or 6 years ago that I have not used very much, and I'd like to start using it more. I just wrote down a bunch of song titles because I get a lot of messages from music, so we're going to be using that today. And then the other one we will be using is the Magical Botanical. And I thought that was pretty fitting with my recent obsession with herbal medicine. It's not even a recent obsession. I've always been interested in it. I'm just now dipping my feet in. And this deck holds quite a potent energy. It's usually wanting to be used when there is intense energy about, and it could be that you're going through some shit, but not all intense energy is bad or shit. Sometimes it's just intense. There can be intense love. And then the tarot deck we are using is the Gateway to the Divine. So, without further ado, let's get into it. And like I told Air Signs, I wish I would have had better material to write these on, because the note cards are a little hard to shuffle, but when you're just starting out the way I was 5 or 6 years ago, you gotta use what you got. I think even if I were to make this now, I probably still would have used note cards. Or maybe cardstock. Because that's what I can afford. One card again. Missile by Dorothy. If you have not heard this song, it's definitely unique. I will give you that. It is a unique song. My brother-in-law just informed me not too long ago that I have a very odd taste in music. He said that and I was like, rude. I do have a very unique taste in music. It varies. It is a very wide variety. However, Missile by Dorothy. This holds quite an intense energy. It's one of anger. It is one of, I would say, maybe boundaries. It was one of the songs that I would put on when I was in an angry mood, because it made me feel like a bad bitch. I'm trying to think of the words, but none are coming. I just I feel the intense anger around it. And the song itself might not be about anger. All she says is I'm coming at you like a missile. So I mean it could point to that coming at you like a missile. There could be something there, but the fact that I always listened to this song when I was angry, when somebody crossed one of my boundaries, it was kind of my foot, or a line drawn in the sand, putting my foot down of absolutely not. If you want to see this side of me, you will see this side of me, and I will come at you like a missile. Try me. Like I said, that song makes me feel like a bad bitch. But, so it could have something to do with the direction, the speed of it. Either you coming at somebody or somebody coming at you. Or it could be tied to it's not even just anger. It's like, it's this intense protection of your boundary. I'm interested to see what plant comes out for you. What botanical magic do you have for earth signs? What plant medicine do you have for earth signs? For earth signs. I knew it was gonna be an intense card. I don't even know if this is a plant. It has Socrates on it, but literally all it says is, "You will be my death. You will be my death." Which, missile does bring death. And not all death is physical. It could be an ego death. Either yours or somebody else's that you are facilitating. Like I said, you could be either coming at somebody or somebody's coming at you and you are defending a boundary. But either way, you will be my death. Oh my goodness. That's intense. We shall see. The plant is hemlock. Super poisonous. I have a feeling your reading is going to be Gah. Okay. Do I want to read all of it? Yeah, I want to read all of it. I just skimmed it and oh my god, it's so perfect. Okay, so the magical meaning. Hemlock is one of the most dangerous of the witch's herbs, preferring to grow near boundaries and borders of roads, gardens, and waterways, for it is an herb of the gate of the veil between life and death. Magically, it should only be used with great care. Traditionally, it is used in magic to curse and to harm, in charms and spells that call upon its poison. Somewhat counterintuitively, hemlock is also used to cleanse and empower the tools of the witch, often the blade or wand. Like many toxic herbs, it can be used in toxic versions of flying ointments to aid in journeying to the underworld and in religious veneration. Any of the dark goddess and gods, such as Hecate, can be honored by tending to hemlock. It was the chosen death of the classic philosopher Socrates, which would be why Socrates is on the card. I see now. It's interesting that all the other cards have the word of the plant on them, and this is the only one that doesn't. It almost it doesn't it's not reminding me, but it's almost pinging something of it might be a difficult plant to identify, which is like, it almost seems like you're like an invisible missile. And if this is a missile coming at you, it's gonna blindside you. And if you're the missile coming at somebody else, you are definitely going to blindside them, coming out of left field. Plant spirit medicine. This is why I laughed. The spirit of hemlock is definitely about the boundaries, borders, and other worlds, and can often help us have vivid dreams and journeys, particularly when we are to face trauma and violence we have experienced or committed against another. Hemlock helps us when we are paralyzed emotionally, mentally, or spiritually due to fear and past trauma. It helps us when we feel we cannot change or move on by dissolving calcified thoughts and beliefs in our energy body and getting in touch with our deepest consciousness. Unpleasant dreams will often be the trigger for change. Divination meaning. When hemlock appears, pay attention to your dreams and nightmares. You have an opportunity to get unstuck and move through anything that is stopping you. The inner voice and intuitive message create the key for you to bypass anything that keeps you stuck and simply get going in your own evolution without delay. In this card, hemlock manifests as the death mask of the Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, in Mexican traditions. At the brow point of this mask is a heart pierced with a dagger, truth and love coming together, rising up from the stalk of the noxious root. She stares directly at us, and we cannot avert our gaze. Face the situation head on. I mean, honestly, that last sentence kind of fits the intensity of these two cards that I'm feeling. You know, she stares directly at us and we cannot avert our gaze, face the situation head on. If this is you or another person, there is some really powerful energy here. It's like the character in almost every story or movie that terrifies everybody else. And not because they do anything terribly evil or dark or villainous. It's just, if you've watched Bridgerton, it's like Mrs. Danbury on that show. And if you have not watched Bridgerton, you know, it's in a time where women don't have a lot of power. They don't have a lot of say in anything. And she tells this story of how she used to hide herself and find a corner in the room and try to disappear. But after getting pushed around enough and being absolutely terrified for long enough, she turned herself into the most terrifying creature in the room. And I'm trying to think of like the aspects that create that like intensity, that thing that terrifies everybody. And I almost want to say it's a sharpened wit. It is, you know, a sharpened wit or sharpened intelligence. And one of the keys of every single character that fits this description, they are observers. They're not going to tell you what to do. They're not going to tell you what you should do. They're going to watch you. And if this is about stepping over boundaries, they're not going to keep reiterating the boundary. They are going to give you the boundary once and then watch you dig your own grave. Another piece of that intensity or this like terrifying creature energy is not letting anybody push you around. They are unshakable, unmovable. They are so grounded in themselves that it's not that like you can't tell them anything and they're never going to listen to you. It's more, you cannot tell them who they are. They already know who they are. And there's like this intense confidence about it that, you know, even when they're wrong, they're still going to make that wrong decision with confidence. So there's that. Very intense. Let's see what tarot cards come out. That is the most insane combination of cards. Any messages for earth signs regarding these two cards? The King of Swords. This fits so freaking well. The kings make decisions. They make the laws. They make the rules. In swords, well, and with kings being like decision lawmakers, it's air energy. And swords being of the mind and logic and thinking, it's also air energy. So we have double air energy here. But the king has mastered this suit. Sometimes he can be a little cold, but he is so discerning, and he is so careful with his words. A sharp thinker. Like, this fits the energy that we were talking about with Hemlock. You know, it's this intensely sharp intelligence. They're not afraid to speak their mind. They step with confidence. I don't know, I always, not always, but like I keep getting drawn back to the sharpened intelligence and the sharpened words. You know, sometimes the truth hurts. The sword of truth is sharp. Honestly, so far, it kind of feels like either you are like telling somebody off, like you are absolutely ripping into them and tearing them a new one. And it's not unwarranted. It's not. The King of Swords does not do anything frivolously. He's very calculated. He doesn't do things on a whim. He's not emotional. So, if you are coming at somebody with all of, this, it's not unwarranted. They crossed a boundary. And you are putting your foot down. And with every boundary, there's a consequence for stepping over that line and crossing that boundary. And you are staying true to your word, your King of Swords words, communication. You are staying true to your word and following through on the consequences. And that's how strong boundaries are made. And if this isn't you, I'll pray for you. Because this might be somebody else's energy coming at you. You might have crossed somebody else's boundary. And they are coming at you with full force. Whew. This is intense. 9 of Cups. This might be the outlier in this reading. The 9 of Cups is about abundance. It's not in the traditional meaning, nor is it in the book's description, but I also kind of see this card as untapped potential. Because there's all of this food, all of this nutrients, and yet none of them have a bite taken out of them. They're all just sitting there. I think it has to do with that untapped potential. If you're coming at somebody else, this might be a whole new, like, approach for you. You know, you might have been timid or a little bit of a doormat in the past, and it's like you are finding your voice and tapping into this uneaten fruit. You are reaching into that untapped potential, and you are finding your power, you are finding your voice, and you are using it. It's almost like this is a side of yourself that even you have not experienced. You haven't seen this side of you. I went through that quite a while ago, where I had that little bit of like with somebody, and it was like, people are always surprised when that side of me comes out. And the first time it came out for me, it definitely surprised me too, but people are always surprised because I'm always so happy-go-lucky, kind of go with the flow. I'm very understanding, very graceful, until you cross a boundary of mine. And I will give you one warning. If you continue, there will be consequences. And that used to scare me at first, because with anger, it is a very intense emotion, and it is very easy to set the entire forest on fire and burn everything to the ground. It is very hard to take that fire and just take a strand of it and use it and direct it. It's hard to keep that fire contained and directed without flailing. It's very easy to get too much destruction. Anger is a hard one. There is healthy outlets and there are healthy ways to utilize anger, but it's very easy to get too sucked up into that and get in burning everything to the ground. You're liable to burn yourself too. And you might fight that battle and then come out on the other side and not like the aftermath. And so that comes back to the King of Swords of being a master at discernment. Kind of picking and choosing your battles wisely. But I almost think with all of this intense energy, like, someone has crossed a boundary. Whether it's you or somebody else, somebody has crossed a boundary. It's just absolutely hold that boundary and hold that, the consequences to that boundary, but make sure you don't go too far. Anything else for Earth signs? Anything else for Earth signs regarding this message? Faith? Faith. Usually when I get this card, it's about trusting the process. It's one of those, God has a plan. And just put your trust in that plan, even if you don't know it yet. I almost want to say with that card, like, just because you sink down into this, it's not really like, it can be dark. This kind of angry energy, it can be dark. It can be kind of seen as like dark magic. But there's a difference between dark and evil. Yes, evil does fall into the umbrella of the dark side. However, it's just like any tool. It's just like any energy. It can be used for good and it can be used for bad. Okay, sorry about that. I did have a customer come in, and I was not expecting the conversation to be that long. So it might take me a little bit to kind of jump back into this energy and figure out where I was going with what I was saying. I know I was talking about evil is under the umbrella of dark. However, dark doesn't always mean evil. You know, some dark aspects are absolutely necessary. You know, it kind of goes back to one of my earlier messages of the light wolf and the dark wolf. Both are needed. You know, if you try to suppress the dark wolf, it's going to be lurking around every single corner, ready to jump out. And it's going to be starving. And, you know, a starving dog, like, they're very dangerous. So, you know, our boundaries is something that lies in the dark. Protecting those boundaries, it lies in the dark. Our fearlessness lies in the dark. You know, so the dark is not always bad. And there's sirens. So that might be a confirmation. But as to why that came with faith, I'm not sure why that came out with faith. Might have been the trust the process aspect of trusting the dark. Who knows? Let's maybe get some other cards and see if it all comes together. We've got the wheel, which is interesting that we had the medicine wheel and then now we have the wheel of fortune. The wheel of fortune is kind of a, you know, the turning of the wheel. Things are shifting, things are moving, things are progressing. You know, if we think about time, you know, time always goes on. The wheel would be like the end of one chapter and the beginning of the next chapter. It's almost like the energy shifts, because I'm noticing something that I never noticed about this card. We have the suit of swords, we have the suit of wands, the suit of pentacles, and the suit of cups, all on this wheel. And of course we have the Fool going around and around and around. And you know, there's this shift of energy, and it's cyclical. So it almost reminds me of like how the energy kind of shifts when the sun goes from Cancer into Leo. Completely different energy. And I can always feel the shift, especially being a Leo. Like, as soon as we enter Leo season, I can fucking feel it. So it's almost like if you're not in this energy yet of like the protecting the boundary and like the and coming at people or somebody coming at you, there's this shift happening. You're either shifting into that energy or we're shifting out of that energy. get one more card for Earth signs. Or two more cards. Judgment, which is usually gosh, what is, I always forget this word. It's basically atonement. It's about atonement, forgiveness, and those are the two sides to one coin. You're either needing to atone for something or you're needing to forgive something, you know, past judgment. However, usually when this card comes out, I always see it as like you're being too hard on yourself. In this aspect, I would almost say, like, if it's somebody else that has crossed your boundary, you can forgive them without rolling over and just allowing them to cross that boundary. You know, there's such thing as tough love. You can forgive them and still draw a line. You can still have that fierceness and softness. You can have the understanding while still protecting yourself. And then if it's you who has crossed somebody else's boundary, doesn't mean you're a bad person. You know, atonement is available. It could be you stepping over somebody else's boundary. I don't feel that. I really feel like it's somebody crossing your boundary. But energy is not linear. It could be you or it could be another person. And then we have the Knight of Swords, which kind of echoes the King of Swords, where the king is like a mastery of it, making the decisions. The knight has the confidence, yes, but they still have a lot to learn. They're still going to make a lot of mistakes. But since they're starting to learn a lot more, they're confident, yes, but sometimes they can get overconfident. And they can get a little bit hubris. They can be a little bit impulsive with their words, a little too harsh. But just like the king, they're a master strategist. And it's almost like they've learned what words hurt. They have not learned when to use that power and when not to. When to hurt somebody with their words and when to kind of back off and be less harsh and kind of have that softness about them. There's a lot of aspects here. Looking at it as a whole, it's almost like this has been coming up a lot lately in my reality, in realities that, you know, other people share with me. There's this sense of discerning, you know, just like with the Knight of Swords, when to use that power and when not to. Because we have this very, like I was saying, that terrifying creature energy of like this sharpened intelligence, sharpened wit, very calculating, and you know, they're if somebody hasn't crossed your boundary, they might be about to, and you might be shifting into that. Or maybe somebody crossed your boundary and you haven't, like, it's been rubbing you the wrong way, but you haven't known, like, how to navigate that or approach it. You know, there's this sense of, you know, learning when to use the light wolf, when to use the dark wolf. You know, when to have grace and understanding, and when to hold your ground. Because every situation is different. Every situation is going to require a different energy. And you have to have faith and trust yourself to know which one to use in the moment. Something about the forgiveness. There's something else about the forgiveness that wants to be said, and I'm trying to put my hand on it. You might be, you know, like we were talking about with the untapped potential, you might be afraid to use this power because of how it ended up in the past. You know, like I said, you know, sometimes we can fight that battle and then we get out to the other end of it and we don't like the results as much as we thought we were going to. And sometimes you do have to forgive yourself, stop judging yourself for making those mistakes in the past. You are not the knight anymore. You have graduated to the king. You have that discernment. You have that calculation. You have this ability to stand your ground without burning the forest. Anything else? Don't be too hard on yourself if you slip up. You know, even graduating to the king, even having a mastery over this power, there's going to be moments of weakness. Sometimes different triggers can throw us back into childish behaviors. All the energy shifts. You know, it's like when the moon is a really good example, because it moves so quickly through all the different signs. So it creates a very fast shift and cycle and wheel of energy. So, you know, if you slip up and you burn the forest down, don't worry. It'll grow back. It'll grow back. Promise. Anything else? I think that is complete. Nothing else is really coming up. So, if this is where we part, have a wonderful rest of your week. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It does help the channel to grow. And if you're local or interested, go ahead and check out the intro and updates and disclaimers if you haven't already. And I will see you next week. Bye. Okay, water signs, you are up next. And something very interesting happened just before I popped on for your reading. I was cleansing my cards from Earth Energy for your reading. And I was using my candle to light my tiny little Palo Santo stick, and I dropped my Palo Santo into my candle wax. So, instead, I just grabbed this juniper smudge bundle that I made myself. I went out and picked some juniper and took some string and tied it up and made a sponge bundle. So that was interesting. If you just skipped to your reading and you didn't watch anything in the air and the earth, I'll explain a little bit of what we're using today. I'm using a deck that I made myself about 5 or 6 years ago, and then I never actually really used it much. All I really did was I wrote down song titles because I do get a lot of messages from music. And then we will be using the Magical Botanical Oracle, which is typically used for really intense energy. And that doesn't necessarily mean bad. Intense is just intense. It's just a really big emotion. There can be intense love as well. But yes, very potent energy with this deck, and the fact that it wants to get used today says a lot. And then we will be using the Gateway to the Divine Tarot. So, without further ado, I'm waiting for my tea to cool down. I had a really long conversation with a customer that came in. I wasn't expecting to have that long a conversation, but I also forgot my water bottle at home again. So that long conversation left me very parched, and I need some sort of liquid. Tea is good enough. Good enough. Tea is great. Oh my goodness. There we go. This deck is so hard to shuffle. It's homemade. It's on note cards. We shall see what song comes out for water signs. I don't like it when there's two. Just give me one. Just one. It's kind of hard to get just one with this deck, but again, just one card for the water signs. I don't know if it's my energy or your energy that just became very chaotic. Okay. Goodness. Mama's Broken Heart by Miranda Lambert. I don't know, the kind of heart of that song, or like the whole point to that song is like, I don't know, I guess she's basically saying, I am not my mother. You know, these ways of dealing with a broken heart worked for you, but I'm not you. I'm not going to deal with heartbreak in the same way that you're going to. So that's kind of what I get with that. I keep trying to get some more off of that card, but so this ain't my mom's broken heart. I'm not gonna deal with it the same way. I could also speak to a little bit of like, I don't know, I get the same kind of energy feeling with the Disney movie Encanto. There's so many ingrained ways of doing things in society because that's the way generations have done it for years. And a lot of us, newer generations, are waking up and thinking, like, why do we do it like that, though? Like, that's so toxic. You know, just squashing down your feelings and pretending like they're not there, that's not the way to go about it. You know, it's almost like, the other thing that comes up is, the story of pot soup, or not pot soup, the story of the ham. I can't remember all the details of the story, but it's basically like this family always, you know, cut off the ends of the ham. And one day, you know, a daughter was asking her mother, you know, why do we cut the ends off the ham? And her mom said, well, I don't know, because that's just the way my mom did it. And so she asks her grandma, you know, why do you cut the ends off of ham? She said, I don't know, that's just the way my mom did it. And so then she goes to her great grandma. She asks her why she cuts the ends off of the ham. And she said, because it wouldn't fit in the pan. The ham was too big for the pan that I had, so I cut off the ends and it fit. So it's like, you know, some things get ingrained like that, and we don't know why we do them. And you trace it back to the origins, and the circumstances don't match anymore. We don't have to do it that way anymore because the circumstances are not the same. We have bigger pans now. We don't have to cut the ends off the pan anymore. We don't have to do things just because that's the way our mother did it. What botanical magic do you have for water signs? What do we have for water signs? Any other messages for water signs? What do we have for water signs? We have Rose. And being YouTube, I'm going to have to cover a portion of this card. This is the Rose card. Rose is like the best association for love, which is why I have to cover part of that card. Kind of has like a little bit of a Kabbalah to it. I've been getting super interested in the Kabbalah. Like I haven't researched it yet, but I have been getting really interested in it, and I've been seeing it everywhere. So that might be another confirmation. Okay. Rose. The magical meaning. Blood is the rose of mysterious union, wrote Jim Morrison, and no other flower is such a potent symbol of love and the life force as rose. Rose is the symbol of beauty and harmony. Situated on the sixth sephira, known as Tifereth on the Kabbalistic tree of life. I was right, it was Kabbalah. In Jewish mysticism, the tree of life has 10 emanations of God that make up creation, and together they make up the completely realized human being, the perfected human. Today, magicians and witches explore these mysteries through Hermetic Kabbalah, and the rose is the preeminent flower of the Western occult traditions, as the lotus is to the East. Rose, per her placement on the tree of life, is associated with the heart and the sun. The Victorians considered the different colors of roses to have individual meanings: red for love, yellow for friendship, and white for purity. As Shakespeare said, no matter what the color or variety, a rose by any other name would smell just as sweet. Traditional folklore associates the rose with Venus for magnetic love and friendship, as the scent attracts rose petals. I read that wrong. Traditional folklore associates the rose with Venus for magnetic love and friendship, as the scent attracts. Rose petals are used in all manner of love spell to draw a lover to you. Likewise, due to its protective thorns, the rose is also ruled by Mars to a lesser extent, as the flowers of Venus certainly overshadow the thorns of Mars. Because of this, roses are also considered protective and are often visualized in the aura of a psychic practitioner, firmly holding energetic boundaries while still remaining friendly. Plant spirit medicine. The simple rose is the supreme healer of the heart, helping us feel more fully embodied and anchored in the love of the heart. Rose holds the vibration of unconditional love, and that unconditional love is the source of all healing. The heart of the rose is the simple 5-petaled pattern, no matter how complex it appears. And the 5 petals are like the points of the witch's pentacle, balancing the water of emotions, the air of intellect, the earth of the body, and the fire of passion with the harmony of spirit. The pentacle both protects us from spiritual harm and opens the gates to the forces we need in order to grow in our lives, while keeping our forces upon divine love. Divination meaning. Rose tells us to seek love, beauty, and harmony in our life. Rose stands in the center of the tree, making the sign as above, so below, and crowned in divine knowledge. Center yourself in the heart and feel all of creation spread above, below, and around you. Find the beauty in yourself, find the beauty all around you, and see what opportunities for true divine love can be found in your current situation. The root of the rose is the harmony of the sun and the heart of the tree of life itself, as she stands upon the earth and keeps the mysteries sub rosa. Rose can appear in a reading when you need to open more deeply to your spiritual path and seek the center. I feel like the reverse meaning kind of says the same thing. I mean, obviously it's, the same message, just reversed. But it says, reversed rose asks you to look at where you might be imbalanced and lacking harmony. Are you closed down to love? Are you blind to beauty? Love and beauty can be found in all things, even the most devastating. It does not diminish the pain or harm, but helps us move through it and take appropriate action. Rose can also indicate speaking too much and need to keep things a secret, or sub rosa. I feel like the line that stands out most there is, love and beauty can be found in all things, even the most devastating. It does not diminish the pain or harm, but helps us move through it and take appropriate action. Sometimes the way our parents parented were not ideal. Some of it was painful. None of us get through unscathed. But there is a certain beauty in some of those pains because they make us who we are today and they teach us. We learn from them. They're not meant to hold us back. They're meant to take us further and help us grow beyond what our parents could reach. We are the next evolution. We're supposed to go farther. But I like the key distinction there of it does not diminish the pain. That's funny. The page I was reading on was 111. And my husband and I text each other when we see the angel numbers in the time. And it just popped down with a message from him that said 111. So that could be a confirmation for you. Okay, let's get a little bit more deep with this. Any messages for water signs? Apparently yes. So we have 4 of Swords, which usually speaks about kind of rest and like rest as self-care. It's almost like rest after a burnout. Like you realize you hit a burnout and you need to lay down and rest. It is a sanctuary, a point of respite in a period of tumultuous times. The other part that I kind of see with that card, though, is sometimes that rest can be born of depression. You know, when we get depressed, we don't want to do anything. We don't want to get out of bed. I'm waiting for my tea to cool down. Oh, that's not bad. It's not too hot. Any other messages for water signs regarding these cards? Two of Cups. It has been said that the Two of Cups is like a twin flame card, but I don't know how much I believe in twin flame stuff. Basically, this card to me just speaks of an incredibly healthy dynamic. It's like, you know, it's two halves to the whole. So maybe the Two of Cups with like Mama's broken heart and Rose, like it kind of brings it back to what I was saying of like we don't have to do things the way our parents did them just because that's the way they did them. You can choose your own way. And when I was first starting out, I knew I didn't want my relationship to mirror my parents. Love you, Mom. Love you, Dad. I do love them dearly. Their marriage, though, was more of a cautionary tale to me. I knew that that's not what I wanted to do. That's not how I wanted my relationship to be. And It's not necessarily to say that there's anything wrong with that. It's just, it's not what I wanted for myself. And sometimes when you're carving your own path like that, and you're doing something new that the generations before you have not done before, it can be hard to figure out, okay, if that's not the way I want to do it, then what do I do? How do I want to do that? And I think what helped me, especially like within relationships, if the 2 cups is indicating a relationship, unconditional love. And that's what the rose kind of represents here, is love is a choice. You can kind of feel like what behaviors feel loving and what behaviors feel manipulative. You can feel it. Not only can you feel it in like your behavior towards people, you can kind of sense like not how they're going to take it, but a potential of how it's going to land. I knew early on that if I continued communicating in my normal sarcastic, sassy way, if I was in a disagreement with my husband, I knew that was going to cause more problems than was necessary. So I changed the way I communicated. It didn't feel loving. At the same time, you can feel more easily and readily how others' behaviors towards you feels. And if it feels like depression and like you need a rest from it and a break and why are you there? You don't have to stay in that relationship just because, you've committed a certain amount of time and energy into it. If it doesn't feel loving anymore, there's a simple answer to that. Not an easy answer, a simple answer. And an aspect of that could be divorce, where it's like, sorry, I thought that looked weird for a minute. The concept of divorce. Some people have a hard time with that because generations before us has taught us that is wrong and you're going to hell if you get divorced. I do not subscribe to that. I do view marriage as a sacred commitment. However, if things were working beforehand and now they are not, and you are not being treated the way you deserve, there are so many mediocre things in this world, and love should not be one of them. I truly believe that. I truly believe that, yes, we have a long life, but our lives are short enough that I don't think we should be wasting our time being either in a mediocre love or a neglectful love, abusive love. I don't see the point in sticking in something that makes you miserable in some way. Any other messages for water signs? regarding this message. Five of Coins, which usually speaks towards poverty and kind of being left out in the rain, no help, kind of holding your hand out. Usually the help arrives after the 5, though. The 6 is where help arrives. So this is kind of also kind of a keep waiting, just be patient, help will arrive. But it does speak towards poverty. Money is another area where we don't have to do things the way our parents did them. A lot of older generations have a lack mindset, and part of that was born out of the Great Depression. However it got there. There has been a lot of families who grew up in lack mentality and a lack mindset and scarcity mindset. It's very easy to get stuck in that. It's very difficult to reframe our beliefs into one of abundance. You know, kind of changing from the world is out to get me to the world works in my favor. Because, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say this is like emotional poverty, because Pentacles or coins in this deck kind of deals with the physical realm, the tangible, the foundations and values. That's why it kind of represents money, because its values, as humans value money, we place that value on it. So I want to say it does have something to do with money, but it could be anything tangible, anything physical, and just having a lack of it. Which again, I really think it just points to that scarcity lack mindset. Anything else for water signs? Death and rebirth. With the death kind of signaling that kind of... It is similar to the wheel, where it's the end of one chapter and the beginning of a new one, but it's like, it's a very deep transformation. It is not just a new chapter in your life. It is a completely new version of yourself. And a version of yourself is literally dying. And some grief does come with that. You know, mourning the version of yourself that is dying. But I almost think even that indicates ending a generational trauma or generational curse, you know, being the end of that line. You know, it's like the video that I seen of like this line of matches. You know, all of them are even, but only one is pulled down. And it kind of represents that cycle breaker in a line of, you know, whatever family line, because they light one end of it and it goes and it goes and it goes and it lights the next one next to it until it gets to that one that's pulled down or up, you know, depending on the video. But when it gets to that one, it stops and it doesn't reach the other side of the matches that are all lined up with it, because that one is down here. So it stops. So it does kind of point to that being the end of a cycle. Being the one who does things differently and doesn't just do whatever the family is done for generations, just because that's just the way things, just the way people do things. Interesting. You guys got Judgment too, which Earth signs got. So there might be something in there for you. Judgment is, it's usually either about forgiveness or atonement. Judgment. You know, usually when this card comes out for me, it's usually self-forgiveness. I'm trying to think of how the essence of forgiveness fits here. It could be, forgiving your parents for doing things the way they did them, because not every case is like this, but a lot of the times our parents weren't intentionally trying to hurt us. They were parenting the best way that they knew how with what they were given. Oftentimes they parent the way they were parented themselves. They do things because that's the way things are done. That's how generations before them have done it, so they did the same thing. They worked with what they knew. And it does take a very strong person to break the cycle and start asking the hard questions of, why do we do it like that? You know, that doesn't make sense. But there does have to be a sense of forgiveness there. Because even if they don't have powers of reflecting on the experiences that you share and really acknowledge that and hold themselves accountable for that and do better in the future, even if they don't have that self-awareness, that accountability, even if they intentionally did something to hurt you, manipulated you in some way, that is the human's ego. That is their avatar on this world. One saying that I've been seeing a lot lately is we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And that's not their higher self. That is what they came to this earth to experience. But their soul tells a different story. If they, in another lifetime, they could have been your best friend. You know what you know what I'm saying? Their human manifestation in their behaviors, it's their ego. It's not who they are at their core. Everybody started out as a child, and sometimes when that child gets damaged, we have two choices. We either grow from it, or it's like, I read this one thing that said something about that saying, hurt people, and that's not always the truth. Some of us grow from it and some of us heal it, but those are your choices. When you are hurt and damaged as a child, you have the opportunity to grow from it and be better than your parents were. Or you have the option of following in their footsteps. And even if you hate what they did, if you don't heal from it, sometimes unconsciously you can start to do the same things that they did in a different way. You can create the same energy, the same feeling in other people. Something to think about. So reflect, have you really healed from your childhood? That's honestly, that's the bread and butter of breaking cycles and generational traumas. You have to heal those things in yourself. How do you expect to do better for the generations ahead of you if you're still hurting and still acting out of that pain from your own childhood? Hurt people hurt people. And if you don't heal from it, you are going to continue that cycle of hurt. And that's not to say that, you do all this healing and you won't hurt your kid. Like, none of us get by unscathed. We all have childhood trauma. We all have scars. It's just, I would say the difference is in a parent who can take accountability in the moment. Parent who yells at their kid unreasonably and then comes back and apologizes for it. That's rare. But it seems like your reading has a lot to do with breaking generational trauma. It's like in almost every area, whether it's the mind and how you think. Because the thing that I wanted to say about this that I couldn't quite grasp, and I still don't know if I can this time, there's an aspect of this card with the depression. Happiness, and people don't like to hear this because they're like, well, I can't just make my depression go away. Happiness is a choice, and it's often a rebellious choice. Our society really likes people being depressed. Couldn't tell you why, but happiness is a choice. It's getting up every day and showing up no matter how hard it is and seeking that happiness. It's taking the depressive thoughts in your mind and stopping them in their tracks and reframing it. It's understanding that we are not our thoughts. And those little voices in our head that came from our parents, if you were sitting down for a moment and they came in and said, you're lazy. Well, then in your adulthood, every time you're sitting down, you hear that voice. You're so lazy. We are not our thoughts. So it's like you're changing the way you think, the way you believe, the way you see yourself. It's like you are breaking generational curses within relationships and striving for a very healthy dynamic. You are breaking the cycle of scarcity mindset and building an abundant life for yourself. And all of that work. I mean, the only thing I don't see is wands, which is passion and creativity. But I mean, we've got enough categories and groups here: swords, cups, and pentacles. All of that is creating such a deep and total transformation within yourself. You just can't forget to have forgiveness. Both for yourself for doing things the way you did in the past. Maybe you unconsciously continued that cycle. If that's the case, you have to have forgiveness for yourself and for your parents. And that's the hardest part. Because whether they deserve the forgiveness or not, it's not for them. It's for you. You know, even if you don't think that they, like, even if they consciously were aware of what they were doing, and you know this, like I said, they're a spiritual being having a human experience. So you can still forgive them for yourself, not for them. And not only that, forgiveness does not it doesn't, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? I cannot think of words today. It doesn't condone the behavior. Just because you forgive them doesn't mean you roll over and you let them behave however they want to behave because that's your parents. Like, yeah. It doesn't, forgiveness does not throw accountability out the window. You can still absolutely hold a candle to their ass. You can still absolutely hold that flame up to their ass. You can still hold them accountable. And at the same time, forgive them. It's a very delicate balance. It's a delicate dance. Is there anything else that wants to be said? Anything else that wants to come out? I just keep hearing something that I was getting a couple weeks ago in my own life. Parting words would be choose love. However that pings you, whatever that brings up in yourself, choose love. Those are the words that are coming through. Other than that, I do believe this is complete. If this is where we part, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It does help the channel to grow. And I hope you have a good rest of your week, and I will see you next week. Bye. And last but certainly not least, fire signs, my fellow fire signs. Like I said in the other ones, if you just skipped to your portion of the reading and you did not watch the other ones, I will briefly explain what we are using. I will be using an oracle deck that I created myself about 5 or 6 years ago that I never used after creating it, and now it's wanting to be used. I just wrote down a bunch of song titles because I do get a lot of messages from music. So we'll be using that one. We will also be using the Magical Botanical Oracle. And it's very telling that this one wants to be worked with today because it's one of my newer decks. I haven't worked with it a lot. However, it is a very, very potent deck. And it's usually wanting to be worked with when there is very intense energy, and intense doesn't always mean bad, it just means intense. And then for tarot, we are using Gateway to the Divine Tarot. So, without further ado, let us get into it. I do eventually want to upgrade this deck because it is very hard to shuffle being note cards. I worked with what I had, and if I were to make it today, I probably still would have used note cards because that's what I have. But eventually, one day, I would like to upgrade it into something that's a little bit easier to shuffle. Okay, what do we have for fire signs? Hell if I know. By Chase Bryant. Hell if I know. I know what the song is about. I know that it's, I thought there was another one turned over. I might be tripping. I know what it's about. I know it's like, you know, why she chose me. Hell if I know. But, I don't know. I just, reading it, I just get this flippant, like, hell if I know. So this may be a love reading. Being a love song. Could have nothing to do with love. Energy manifests in the most mysterious ways. Okay. What do you have for fire signs? Any messages from fire signs? Your reading seems to have a lot of this like very flippant, playful energy to it. We got cannabis. I don't know why that's making me laugh so much, but like hell if I know, and cannabis. Okay. It doesn't have a number on it. Oh, yes, it does. 6. Okay. Magical meaning. Magically, cannabis can be used to enhance meditation, divination, spirit contact, and in some traditions, as a part of mystery initiation rites. One thing I do want to say, with moderation. I have been noticing that getting stoned out of my gourd, stoned out of my mind, does not have that spiritual aspect to it. It has a numbing effect. Anyways, those are the traditional magics of ingestion or inhalation to shift the consciousness of the practitioner. In more outward forms of magic, the leaves, flowers, and resin can be used in healing ritual to help the recipient to be open to healing, dissolve rigidity, and feel the natural flow of life. Sprinkle it upon a candle spell. Cannabis tea... Okay, doesn't really say much on that. Just sprinkle it upon a candle spell. Alright. Cannabis tea can be used as a wash on magical tools to help open to other realities, such as a scrying mirror to see through time and space, or upon a blade or wand to open the gates and call forth the spirits. Cannabis can be sprinkled into magical ink to empower your spells and help write or draw from a place of direct spiritual guidance. Care should be used in working magically with this plant. Just because it is not toxic like many of the witchcraft herbs, excess use can diminish results. That's exactly what I said! Aha! Sometimes I get to these teachings and I learn the hard way on my own. Plant spirit medicine. The nature of cannabis is to lighten and open, dissolving rigid boundaries and bringing out our childlike loving nature. It expands our awareness, our field of consciousness, not only to other humans, but all of nature. It can help us get in touch with our body, but also the body of the earth and our relationship to it. Cannabis can aid in increasing telepathic abilities and awareness. The healing nature helps us find joy and humor, allowing us to see ourselves and the world in a different light, calming us and also enhancing creativity. Divination meaning: be aware, be sensitive, connect and commune. When cannabis shows up, feel connected and play. Now is a time for letting down rigid defenses and enjoying the world. Find your bliss in simple everyday things, and be aware of the vast levels of life all around you, seen and unseen, physical and spiritual. The lion is symbolic of the relaxed royalty, its innate strength from being rather than only doing. The traditional card suits of the hearts, diamonds, clubs, and spades is a balance of the traditional elements, depicted in tarot as cups, coins, wands, and swords. The resinous smoke of the plant brings a soothing balance embodied by the radiating mandala of the card. It's kind of interesting that there's like this, the first line, it says, when cannabis shows up, feel connected and play. And that's exactly the kind of energy that I was getting with these two cards before I even read the book. It feels so joyful and playful and curious. Like you're being open to your own curiosity. Like, you're not pretending that you know everything. If a question is asked of you, hell if I know. Which is a very, I don't know, it's just, I love your energy in this reading because it's so very playful. So joyful. I keep wanting my hair behind my ear, but I hate it. Hold on. Okay, that is the second time today that I've been interrupted by a customer, and normally I would get not irritated, but like a little like, gotta get back into the energy that I was in. But something about your reading just has so much playful energy around it. That was number one, absolutely grateful that customers are stopping in now, but the reason why I say that there's so much playful energy around your reading right now is that was my neighbor. My neighbor is very funny. So, I can't wait to see what your tarot cards will show. I could sit in your energy forever. It feels so good. Ay. What do you have for fire signs regarding these cards? Whoa! Ah, I caught it. Justice. Interesting. That is such a serious card for such a playful energy. Because justice is like reaching a verdict in a fair and unbiased way. It's the way it describes it in the book is like these two figures. They are both influential to the decision, but they do not influence each other. There's like this pendulum swinging, and that's the verdict. But they both have a hand in the decision. They both, influence it. They both play a part. However, they don't influence each other. So it's a fair and unbiased decision verdict. I think that's why the yin and yang is there too, because it's like that balance. Seven of Cups. Okay. The Queen of Cups, kind of going with the flow. And the Lovers. I'm gonna pull one more. There's a message coming through, and yeah, Knight of Wands. Okay. Okay. Oh, there's so much coming in. So I did say that the Justice was a very serious card for all of this playful energy. Seven of Cups is kind of similar. The Seven of Cups is kind of a card of indecision. It's having so many options available that it's almost overwhelming. It's often called the Dreamer's card, which, it kind of depicts somebody who is always in fantasy land, basically, always dreaming up something but never actually doing anything. But the way I see the Seven of Cups card is like if you've never eaten candy and you go down the candy aisle at Walmart and there's so many choices, like where do you even start? So it's like overwhelming decisions and not being able to make a choice because there's just an overwhelming amount of choices. And, well, what if I choose this and that would have been better, So those are two very, intensely serious cards. Does not portray playfulness at all. However, then we have Queen of Cups. And Queen of Cups is double water energy. I mean, even that doesn't really go with the playfulness, but she is someone who kind of goes with the flow. I mean, it's a little bit like being stoned. Very flowy. Anyways, queens are receptive. Queens have mastered their suit. And in cups, this is intuition, emotions, relationships. And so it's kind of going with the flow in the sense of the currents of life. But with cups being intuition and emotion, it kind of points to going with the flow in the sense of your emotions. Your emotions are not fixed. They are fluid. They constantly flow and change. I almost want to say that these are the energies you've been in, super serious, always having to make decisions and verdicts and having to almost decision fatigue, because even both of these cards are about decisions. One is being fair and unbiased, but this one is more having so many options, creating indecision. So it's almost like you've had to make so many responsible choices in your life that you're just kind of going with the flow now. You're just hell if I know. people ask you to make a decision, hell if I know. Super laid back, super chill, stoner-like. And then the Lovers, yes, it can be about relationships. However, it's more of like, if we think about the essence of what a marriage is, it is a promise, it is a vow of commitment. You are choosing to commit to them. So the Lovers speaks more to a choice of commitment, long-term commitment. And it almost seems like you're tired of being in this decision fatigue and everybody looking to you to make a decision, that you're just throwing your hands up like, hell if I know, and you're getting laid back and chill. And it's like, so with the Knight of Wands and the Lovers being down below, like I've got 3 at top and then 2 on the bottom, and these are the 2 on the bottom. The Knight of Wands is double fire energy, which is kind of interesting that we have Queen of Cups, double water, and then double fire. Anyways, the Knights are very confident. They leap without looking. Sure, they have a lot to learn, but since they've learned more than the Page, they are super confident, sometimes overconfident, but either way, they don't doubt themselves. And with Wands being passion and creativity and ambition and power of will, like you can even see, like, you know, with fire representing passion, like this is a very, very, very passionate card. Very quick. Wands are the quickest of the Knights. And they're so, yes, they can be impulsive, but I wouldn't even say, like, their decisiveness and their leaping without looking, it's not really necessarily impulsiveness. It's just being committed to following what lights you up and what creates a sense of joy within you, what creates that sense of play. I feel like you're just so tired of being so serious all the time that you've just thrown caution to the wind, and now you're more committed to following things that light you up and things that make you joyful and that you're passionate about. I feel like this joy and passion, it's not just, it can be who you are, but I don't feel like that's the whole of it. I don't think it's just who you are. I think this chapter of joy and play and fun, it's very much a choice. You're tired of whatever came before, so you're choosing joy, you're choosing play. Because things have been too serious. I don't think that it's becoming a problem. Because sometimes, like, we can go a little overboard and maybe never take anything serious again. And we do still need to have some moments where we do take things seriously and we are responsible. And that's where I think the Queen of Cups comes in, with this going with the flow, especially in emotions and intuition. Like, you can still sense when a situation calls for some serious responsibility, but I feel like whenever you can, you are choosing play and choosing joy. And I love that for you. I feel like that's pretty complete. I don't feel like a lot came out, and I think it was very simple and to the point, but I think it is complete, and maybe that's all you needed to hear. I think you just needed to hear that that's completely okay to choose play and choose fun. You know, I don't think you're going overboard with it. I don't, if anybody else has a problem with it, that's their problem. You know? Says more about them than it does you. It's like people say, like, sometimes nowadays being happy is an act of rebellion. Our society wants so bad to cut us down and be miserable. And being happy is such an out of the norm thing anymore, that you show up with joy and fun and play and people look at you like you're on crack. I think you've had enough. You've had, enough seriousness in your life. And I think you're just realizing that life doesn't have to be so serious all the goddamn time. It's also about joy and fun. So, take this as a confirmation that joy and fun that you are choosing right now is absolutely the right way to go. And I don't sense any imbalance here. I don't think you're going too overboard. Yes, the Knight of Wands can be impulsive and rash, but I don't sense that here. I think you're doing pretty good. So, just take that as confirmation. If this is where we part, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It does help the channel to grow. And I hope you have a good rest of your week. And I will see you next week.